coach.
Sometimes I just feel like God wants me to do something else.
Something other than coaching after he gave you those two talented boys.
I love you guys.
It's about more than just basketball.
You are so into yourself you don't even know.
It's always about Josh. Everything is just always about him.
You just want me to hang out here in this hick town and go nowhere? I'm going.
Discover the inspiring story
You're my oldest. You're my rock. Right now, brother needs all our love and support.
about family and redemption.
Welcome back, brother.
Who's got talent? We do. Who gave it to us? God did. Now get out there and play some ball.
Breaking the press.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. The boys are my shepherd. I shall not want. This is your co-host, Ash. As always, I am here with my co-hosts,
Scott.
Julian. Our guest today, Eyad Zahra, is a filmmaker most notable for his 2010 film, The Taqwacores. Eyad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, so nice to meet you. For anyone who hasn't seen Taqwacores, I, for the first time seeing it, would describe it as a film where a sort of a straight-laced Muslim college student falls into a group of Muslim punks and gets his mind expanded to what being a Muslim could be. I wanted to know, does that come from your personal experience as a Muslim? Does that relate to your personal background at all?
Totally, Ash. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and my parents were immigrants from Syria, and both Muslim, but and Sunni Muslim to be specific. But my mom was, especially as I got older in my teenage years, became more and more religious, while my dad, was, you could say, agnostic. And I would hear two different sort of ways of living from each of them. And I don't think they ever actually had a conversation about how to deal with that with us as their kids. But anyway, yeah, that's my upbringing. And I think that dichotomy and that discord is why I made Taqwacores.
Did you think there was a particular piece of media that strongly affected you too, or like changed your perception in some way?
No, I think not. There wasn't something that just sort of flipped this. It was like a gradual over time conversation experiences kind of thing for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing that I did grow up finding very interesting was I seeing Malcolm X, the movie, when that Denzel Washington Spike Lee film, because it was the first time. Yeah, it was the first time I actually saw, again, Muslims in a positive light in media and whatever, TV or film. And it was also, it was a very not complicated, but complex story with the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X going through that journey and then ending up with a Sunni Muslim perspective or path. But yeah, I mean, that was cool. And it just was like it showed like a Muslim that wasn't from the box that I had grown up seeing, but that still presented him or herself as a Muslim, right? So that was interesting.
Are you a very religious person? Is that still a part of your life?
No, in my teenage years, I was. So like, for those who don't know, Scott and I went to the same high school and we grew up together.
Uh-huh.
He was in the class above me.
Full disclosure.
Scott may or may not recall, but I didn't go to dances. I didn't drink until after I graduated high school. So, I did try to be a good Muslim kid, similar to the protagonist in Taqwacores, throughout my high school years. Yeah.
I actually don't remember that. Yeah, that's really interesting. And you and I, before this, were talking a little bit about this too, because I kind of asked the same thing. Like, were you aware of how Christian that I was at the time?
And I wasn't. I just thought you were a cool guy. Yeah.
That's what most people think about Christians.
Yeah. It wasn't something I walked around projecting. It was definitely something I kept quiet.
I do remember, though, you having to fast because, again, full disclosure, Eyad and I played high school basketball together, which I think will help us lead into the movie here. But I do remember you having to fast from sun up to sundown during basketball.
Yeah, it totally, because Ramadan shifts. It's based on a lunar calendar, so it just shifts throughout the year. And of course, the years that I'm in high school playing basketball, it lands in the middle of that. So I would fast, and it definitely. If it wasn't for the fasting, I think I would have, probably hit 30 points a game or something. But fasting slowed me down, No, I mean, joking aside, I mean, it definitely impacted my ability to play. And, like Islamic fasting is pretty intense in that you can't even drink water during the day. And looking back at it now, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably would have enjoyed the basketball season and played and not worried about that. Asked and whatever, figured out a compromise. But again, I was, I guess you could say, yeah, I was pretty religious to go through it, and stick to it.
Did you like look towards Hakeem Olajuwon for like inspiration during those times?
I did,
because he's like famous for fasting during the playoffs, I think.
Didn't Mahmoud Abdul Rauf do that too?
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure he did. I mean, well, interesting enough, he did. He was the first to, I guess, not stand up for the anthem. He got in trouble, so
he got pushed out of the league for that, basically.
I think so. Yeah. So like at first he was like, as a Muslim king, there's someone positive out there, and then he was playing basketball, and then he went through that, and then he became not the guy to associate with. I mean, look at it in hindsight. Obviously, the guy stood up for his beliefs, and you applaud him for that. But when you're trying to be a fit in, right? And then so that guy is a Muslim guy who's in hot water. And then Hakeem was celebrated, so I think I lean more towards him. And he even came to it was the All-Star game, and I forget what year it was exactly, but there was an All-Star game. He came to town. It was during Ramadan. It was at the end of Ramadan. There's a celebration called Eid. It's a few days. It's like our Christmas, and I got him to sign some basketballs because he came to the mosque on Eid. I still have the basketballs. Got two of them.
Holy shit. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Was he tall?
Yeah, he's tall. He looked awkward praying on his knees and stuff. Nowadays, it's interesting. There's a lot more diversity. There's so many social channels and stuff like that. But growing up, another reason I wanted to go into filmmaking was that I just couldn't, there was no one for me to identify with, like who are the voices that relate to me kind of thing. Because typically Muslims would be stereotypical, presented stereotypically or in bad light, I guess.
So still are mostly in Hollywood. I mean, pretty bad.
Yeah, I think it's gotten better especially in the past 10 years. I mean, you have a show like Rami that's on Hulu that won a Golden Globe Award or nominated for a few Emmys. So it's cool to see people, sharing that voice and not just being presented as terrorists or whatever growing up, which is what I was used to.
Yeah.
Although the basketball points would be a good segue into the movie, I have to ask you first before we get into it. What kind of feedback did the Taqwacores get from just in general and also from the Muslim community?
Yeah, good question. I mean, overall it was definitely critically mixed. Like some people applauded, what we were trying to do and understood that it was in the punk genre and supposed to be a very destructive film, if you want to say it, whatever, if you want to say it in that regard. Like, for example, we won this major Russian film festival. And then on the other end, we had critics in the U.S. going, this is, complete garbage. So, there's and then it played in 50 film festivals around the world as well beyond that. I mean, it definitely lent itself to more people who are cinephiles and appreciate something different than a mainstream audience. So, it got that kind of overall review. And then in terms of the Muslim community, there were some people who thought this was just for them and they really appreciated that we went in the direction we did and we said the things we did. And there were some people who were very upset. The mosque, there's a little scene that we shoot in a mosque in the film. Mm-hmm. And the mosque was not very happy when the movie came out. And I think you could say any traditional or orthodox kind of Muslim wouldn't have appreciated what we did, per se. Yeah. So, from the get-go, we were like, who is this film for? Like, punks are going to question it because it's dealing with religion. And then you have Muslims who are going to hate it. And then you guys, the title of the film is like so hard to pronounce. Taqwacores, where's this going? And we're just like, no, it's punk. We're just going to piss everyone off and we're going to get it done this way. I'm glad I was that arrogant, because I think the film has over time meant a lot to certain people, and it might not be for everyone, but those people really appreciate the fact that we went in that direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. And honestly, yeah, like I don't know how you feel about it now, since like it's your first feature and it's 10 years ago now, but like it really holds up. Like I hadn't watched it in a number of years until a couple days ago, and like it was just as good as I remembered it, if not better. Like it's really unique, and every listener here should go check it out because it's really good. And isn't it streaming somewhere now too?
It's streaming on Amazon Prime. Technically, someone put it on YouTube. You can catch it on YouTube as well. But the quality will be better on Amazon Prime. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I just sort of let it live its own life. People worked, for no money on this film, and it was such a labor of love. I just want people to see it, and to be honest with you, there's people involved, like distributors and sales reps who continue to get the film out there. I'm not involved with that, nor do I see any compensation. I don't think there's much to be honest with you anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, watch it on YouTube if you find it there, if that's easy for you.
Totally. Yeah. Everyone listening, please check out the Taqwacores, filmed by Eyad Zahra. But as you could tell by everyone talking excitedly earlier, Eyad, Julian, and Scott are all big basketball fans. In order to get into the movie we watched today, could you all please explain to me, a homosexual, what is basketball and why should I care?
Oh man, Julian, could you take this one?
I actually I've been to Clippers games, but just tell me.
Basketball is the universe in a nutshell. I told you about my acid trip.
True. I love the Julian basketball acid trip.
The hierarchy of the world is you have Giannis Antetokounmpo on the bottom holding the world in his hands. The Angels, James Harden and Steph Curry are battling with flaming swords. That was all that was explicitly clear to me in this vision.
That was revealed to you. I really respect that, because to me that shows that basketball is like a divinely inspired art. And similar to like tarot cards, like I feel like you could probably with analysis like look into basketball and see the structure of the entire spiritual world laid out in front of you,
Do you guys agree?
Oh yeah.
I had a point in my life where I was like, why am I watching sports so much? They don't mean anything. They're so silly, and this is dumb. Because I grew up in Cleveland. We grew up watching sports left and right, and sort of kept us sane. But then I just like pivoted back, and I went all in. And I was like, similar to what was just described, but without the drugs needed. Just like this is like a metaphor for life, and like the saga of like winning and losing, and all these stories, especially in the NBA now, all these storylines you can follow on social media. Like it's just it can be so parallel to our own lives. It's very fascinating.
I'm sure
I love it more and more.
You could say that about every sport almost, but I feel like it's I don't know. For me, it clicks the most with basketball, and I too had a similar sort of a prodigal son parallel with liking sports when I was younger, and then sort of not caring and thinking like it was pointless and stupid, and then realizing that pretty much everything is pointless. So you might as well just enjoy the things you like. And in that case, I like sports amongst many other things. And you need to cut the people who refer to it as sports ball out of your life to achieve true happiness.
Absolutely. I stand by that 100%. I look back fondly at the basketball game I went to with you, Julian, and maybe Scott, where Soulja Boy was the halftime show.
Yep.
That was just that was
when
honestly,
the Clippers played the Bulls.
Maybe Julian wasn't. No, were both of you there?
I was not there.
Oh, it was just Scott, actually. Well, anyway, that was. Yeah, I like sports. I'm not like super into them. I don't follow the storylines, but like that was a very sublime event to go to. I had so much fun.
It's all just, it's spectacle. And on top of that, there's something in it for everybody. There's like strategy and there's like teamwork, there's strategy, there's individualism. There's something there for everyone to enjoy from ages 1 to 100.
There's drama. Ash, do you remember that both coaches got kicked out of that game?
What? No, I don't even remember that.
That's one of the most memorable parts.
That's so funny. I totally fucking forgot about that. Oh, man. Well, the reason we're so heavily discussing basketball on this episode is because we actually watched a Christian basketball film. So we knew we had to have Eyad on for this one. We watched Breaking the Press, a 2010 film by, what was it, Mustard Seed Productions?
Mustard Seed Productions.
Notable
Mustard Seed Entertainment.
Mustard Seed Entertainment, which I think is a Bible verse, isn't it? Something about a mustard seed.
Faith the size of a mustard seed.
They're credited in the Bible.
Yeah, they executive produced the Bible. Really, really brilliant production company.
So I just a quick perusal of their website. Their heavy hitters are their Bill Engvall movies. They have a lot of movies with former, I don't know, or do they still do? Not right now, obviously, but the Blue Collar Comedy Tour alum Bill Engvall is a central actor in a lot of their films, and they're almost exclusively sports movies, except for the Christian Body Switch movie that's I don't think released yet.
Ooh,
I cannot wait for that.
We are covering that one. The Boys Bible Study promise. We are covering Switched, the Christian Bibles, the Christian body swap movie,
the Bible Switch movie
coming.
We're gonna break quarantine to go see it at a theater in Florida.
Oof! Oh my God! When we get the Patreon money up, we're going to risk COVID to fly to Florida to see the only theatrical release of Switched. So that's the BBS promise for you. But today, Breaking the Press. Scott or Julian, any other production backgrounds that you're aware of that might be important?
I didn't see anything.
There's not a lot of big names in this one. This isn't like
I'm going to say the only name that jumped out to me at first. I don't even remember what the guy's name is, but he's the coach in the movie. But he was also a coach in Friday Night Lights.
Oh, you mean the main character, Joe Conahay?
Yes.
Okay, his name is Drew Waters, according to IMDb. So he was also in Friday Night Lights?
Yeah.
I see.
And this is a big Texas movie. Friday Night Lights takes place in Texas, and there are 3 people connected to professional basketball that appear in this movie in one scene, and each of them has ties to the Dallas Mavericks in some way.
I see.
Yeah, it takes place in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Which definitely comes, that's definitely important to note as for later on. But let's take anyone listening briefly through the plot of this movie. We don't have to hit every point of the plot, but let's definitely let people know what's going on. They can decide if they want to watch it for themselves or they'd rather just hear us talk about it and, spare themselves an hour and a half. But how would you start this movie off, Eyad? How did it start?
Yeah, interesting. It started off as a flashback setup, right? With this reporter coming in to talk to this old school coach about something that happened, back in the day.
I am here with legendary icon and basketball coach, Houston's own Tex Summer. So, Tex, tell us about that famous defensive strategy of yours.
Defense? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, ma'am, that's offense.
I'm sorry. That's my mistake.
That's all right. Even my players didn't get it till much later. I'm guessing I might be your first sports interview.
Second. I did a piece on bowling once.
And, from there, he goes into setting up the characters. So, do you want me to... do you want me to keep going through it, or are we passing the ball along here?
We'll keep passing the ball, but wait.
Pun intended.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a point, which is that one of you said there was a direct allusion from the character of the coach that they were interviewing to set up the whole film. Wasn't that a reference?
Yeah. So the coach that the reporter visits and who plays a pivotal role in the movie, although it's really tough to judge exactly what spurs their success. His name in the movie is Tex Summer, but he is clearly based on the college and pro basketball coach Tex Winter, which they did not try very hard to disguise that.
That's a really funny homage.
And Tex Winter was born in Texas, hence his nickname Tex, but really most of his success came in California and in the Midwest, where he developed the triangle offense and would go on to become an assistant coach to Phil Jackson and would win several championships with the Chicago Bulls and LA Lakers as assistant coach, which is funny because later in the movie, there seems to be there's this weird thing where they're kind of calling back to the Bulls hiring Tex Winter and people thinking that that's not going to be enough to put them over the edge to a championship.
I understand you want to win basketball games and to put the school on the map. So do I. And I have just the man to help us do it.
Who?
Tex Summer.
Tex Summer? I thought he was dead.
I remember him. Don't you think he's a little old to be our head coach? I didn't say head coach.
What did you say?
Look, I still have a lot of faith in Joe Conahay. I propose we hire Tex to be his assistant and see if he can become a winner again.
But they put it in this high school basketball storyline, and it was just weird that there was a really high number of references to Tex Winter, the triangle offense, which is referred to as the oval offense in this movie. And the fact that he was an assistant coach who was much older than the head coach at the time. It was just somebody had just read a biography about Tex Winter, I'm assuming, and then decided to force all of that into this movie as the framing device.
For a high school movie, which was very interesting too, right? Because all this stuff you're talking about happened in pro basketball, right?
Yeah. And even then, granted, I was just a few years old when all this was first happening. I've never read anything or seen any sort of thing in The Last Dance, the documentary about the Bulls with Michael Jordan, where it was it was a big controversy that they hired Tex Winter to take over. It's all very strange. I understand that they probably were taking their own creative license with the source material, but it's weird to have just Tex Summer is so obviously supposed to be Tex Winter that they would change any part of that story to add drama, especially when the drama kind of falls flat on its face with the just two old men are angry about the basketball team being unsuccessful in this movie. Very low stakes, very, very low stakes.
It was actually kind of weird, the lack of drama in this movie. When you need the least bit of anything to happen in a teen drama for there to be full out drama. And they definitely got those things in there and then just didn't really take off with it. For having such a clear path and direction, at least that I felt for this movie, it didn't feel like it had a clear path or direction.
Absolutely. It was very unclear, even from the get-go, who we were going to be following as the audience. There seemed just many potentials for where this was even going to go. But as we found out, this movie was essentially a retelling of the famous prodigal son parable, which you faithful Boys Bible Study listeners will, of course, be immediately familiar with. But it was told through the lens of high school basketball. We have two brothers in the lead parts here. Their names in the movie are Matt and Josh Conahay. Their father, Joe, is the basketball coach of the Woodrow Wilson Wildcats. And their sort of family and personal drama plays out in a way that could be said to be reminiscent of the prodigal son parable.
Yeah, it begins with, as Eyad said, the very beginning as the prelude to the flashback. I don't know how long ago this story of the team's success takes place, because it seems like it just happened like a couple of years before, but they act like it happened like decades before, although nothing about the story seems like it takes place in any other time outside of like present day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just I was expecting once you started interviewing him that it was going to turn into like a period piece, and I quickly forgot that I had thought that.
Yeah, because it starts, you think he's going to talk about like his youth, but he's still talking about him being an old man, and he's telling a story about somebody else's family, and he's also giving like very intimate personal details about very specific things that happen to these people that he would clearly be nowhere near when they're happening. Like down to where they're sleeping.
And not even know them well enough to like hear it, them recalling it to him. Like at no point in the film would you feel like he'd built that relationship to hear those stories that he was telling the reporter.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to some really great moments that I'll try to remember to bring up the fact that this is somebody completely outside of these events recounting it to a journalist. But yeah, I mean, he starts by the drama really begins with the fact that these kids, the two brothers, were adopted after being found in a box left outside of a fire station or something, or outside of a dumpster, which I don't know if anybody's read Coin Locker Babies. It's a very good book.
Not familiar.
But it starts in a similar way and is also kind of about the brothers and the way their paths diverge, and they have this one thing in common is that they were both orphans.
Side question, and you guys are referring to the prodigal son story in the Bible. Does that apply to orphans?
No, it specifically applies to in the story of the prodigal son. Basically, there's a good brother and a bad brother. The good brother works really hard for their dad. The bad brother kind of doesn't give a shit and decides he's going to go off on his own. And he gets into like a lot of debauchery and basically loses all his money and becomes a broken person. And then he ends up coming home. And when he comes home, his dad welcomes him with open arms. And then his brother's like, what the fuck? I never left. I always work hard. You don't do anything nice for me, because they like throw him a party.
Yeah, they're like really happy that he's returned just because like they're happy to see him again, but the other brother is pissed off about it.
Right. And it's interesting because, at the end of the film, at the end of the parable, the good brother sort of becomes the villain because he doesn't have it in his heart to understand like why forgiveness is important. And I want to say, it's been a long time since Sunday school, but I want to say the whole parable alludes to the idea that like, we all sin and we all stray from God, but, we have to come back to him and ask his forgiveness, and he'll welcome us back with open arms. So they sort of once again use the framing device of high school basketball to tell that story. And we have which brother's which? Matt or Josh? Which is the one that went away?
Josh is the one who looks like he could play a high schooler. Matt is the one who does not look like he could play a high schooler. He looks like he's like 34.
Yeah, Matt was like fucking 34, 100%. Seeing the two of them together looked like uncle and nephew or something like that. It was very funny.
Yeah, they're the LMFAO. He accidentally adopted LMFAO.
The LMFAO of Christian basketball. Fantastic. Yeah. What happens next?
Well, they're playing basketball, but Josh is a ball hog, and so the team's like not really playing well together because of that.
This points to the whole idea that like, so, in this movie and in many schools, like high school sports is a big part of the culture, and like there's a lot riding on the performance of the team, but it's like, everyone's like fucking 15 to 18. Like, who has like good morals at that age? You know what I mean? Like,
of course,
even if you're a good player, like it's wild that there's so much expectation riding on like these kids to lead, to be like well composed on the court as well as being good players,
Yeah, and that does happen too, where there's like in this movie, Josh is like so good and he's like very cocky too, but everybody knows he's the best player. And so things happen in high school where you like have a game plan, but then like your best player just decides they want to do what they want. Not everybody gets to work like that.
Right.
And I do think that can affect your team chemistry and just like getting along and being able to have fun. And
that goes into the why and why we're interested in sports is like, you understand why leadership is important. How chemistry works. You can have great players, but things don't click. Well, how does that work? Whatever, like bringing people together and getting the most out of everyone. It goes back to the reasons why sports are cool in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get to see those dynamics play out in like a very interesting microcosm that's like observable.
Mm-hmm.
In a controlled environment with like established rules and boundaries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like a definitive, I mean, it can be up for debate whether or not like winning or losing is a definitive measure of success. But I mean, within those parameters, at the end of the day, there is a winner and there is a loser.
Yeah. Someone told me, I forget the point of the conversation, but the idea, imagine if sports didn't keep score, if people just played and they showcased their abilities, and would that be cool? And I mean, the answer for me and most, I think, would be no. There's something that you need a winner and a loser. And why is that? And what does that say about us as a species? I don't know. It's interesting.
It's better than like killing each other to prove who's best.
Yeah, much better than that for sure.
Or like, having to put somebody into like financial ruin just to like prove that you're the best businessman or whatever.
Well, so as our semi-protagonist Josh is, he's a very cocky player. He's sort of doing his own thing, even though he gets good results. There's a couple people in the movie who try to keep him in line. Of course, there's his father, who, is the head coach of the team. But then a very tantalizing opportunity to play for a bigger school with a more notable team comes his way. And he ends up staying with his aunt or great aunt, possibly. And I wanted to talk about her because she has some of the funniest moments in the movie.
Real quick, before he decides to leave for Dallas, the high school in Dallas, he does bring up in a fight with his brother that the rest of the team found out they were adopted and they were like making fun of him or something. And that's literally that is the first and last mention beyond them actually being adopted of them being adopted.
Right.
Now, what else is going on?
I don't know. We're just sick of hearing stuff.
What kind of stuff?
A couple other players said some things, and
They found out we're adopted, and that you're not our real dad.
That's nothing new. Most everybody around here knows that. You guys should be used to that comment.
Well, they call us bastards.
So don't listen to them. Don't let it get to you. If they know it's getting to you, they're going to continue to do it, and it's going to ruin your focus.
yeah, but it does get to me.
Me too.
At the very end, one of the opposing players takes a jab at him about it, but he's mentally over it, and like I guess it shows him coming.
Which just seemed like in a movie that's already like we're putting this in the most simple way. Like this movie was wasn't convoluted, but it was just overwhelming in what the focus of the movie was on.
Right.
We're giving you the plot of the prodigal son aspect, which actually watching the movie, it felt like a pretty small part. Like it felt like the main focus of the movie was the success of the basketball team.
Yeah.
And like the community sort of like not being sure if they're going to be a good team or not.
Yeah, which was weird because they definitely did in all the like little blurbs about it, make it a point to be like, this is like the prodigal son. And typically for a Christian movie, if they're going out of their way to make the protagonist be adopted, that would be like a big deal. And they would also probably work in some parables there, or at least some allusions to things that happen in the Bible. And as they do with many elements of this movie that could be a lot stronger, they don't. They, like you said, they mention it twice in the movie.
Yeah, so the aunt, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just saying, he moves to Dallas, Texas, to to live with his aunt who lives in the district of the school that he's trying to play for. And I just wanted to bring her up because I really just wanted to put the audio in, and we're definitely going to post the clips from just some of her like antics, like apropos of nothing. There's just like this really insane like Christmas tree decorating scene, which I thought was very funny. I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and she's like dancing in a quote unquote hip hop fashion to the royalty free rap music while she's decorating the Christmas tree.
Morning.
Good afternoon, you mean? You look a sight.
I had a rough.
Oh, save it. You are lucky that this is the Lord's week, or I would have chained you to a chair.
And this is the big moment that I wanted to mention to remind everyone that this story and this moment is being recounted by somebody who is nowhere near this event and had zero insight as to like how the aunt decorated the tree. He's just making all of this up.
I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty incredible that like it went into all these different tangents. I mean, again, not necessarily the best crafted story, but I mean, give the filmmaker some credit for imagination to think of this great aunt who dances to Christmas hip hop while decorating a tree.
I guess these are the recollections of a senile old man.
That was yet another element that's normally really strong in Christian movies. Like, he left home shortly before Christmas, basically, and came home only for Christmas. You think they would have made a point to have like a real discussion there or like something involving Christmas. And no, it's just, there's like
they go to services.
Yeah, but like, it's just like a regular service. There's not like an intense, like the pastor doesn't say anything that's like relevant to the movie or anything. It's just like they had a Christmas service.
Yeah, and you have this moment, like this is in the middle of his fall from grace, which I guess we can get into a little bit of what happens to him when he goes to Dallas while he's staying with his aunt. And like this is the first time he sees his family since he moved to Dallas and gets to see how like the other half lives. But nothing comes of that. They just like sit in church and listen to the church sing a song with a conga drummer.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Yeah, so does someone want to get into sort of what his life looks like now that he's at the big school in Dallas, the Contender?
Yeah, that's a good point because as you were saying, you know, we're seeing this fall from grace, and because he's strayed away from the home, he's taken this big chance that was like, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with his choice, but it definitely came out of the fact that he was really into his own basketball ability. He felt like he was being held back by the situation he was in, that he was, you know, better than the team. He deserved a bigger spot. So he goes to this school and he's just like sort of immediately like captured by like a character who's just supposed to be playing like a one-dimensional like high school hussy, basically.
There he is now.
He is cute.
I think so too. Just back off, girls. He's mine.
For now.
Why should we? Just do it.
Whatever.
Hey, country boy.
And
our Jezebel character.
Absolutely. Very much a young Jezebel character who's like...
I believe the narrator, and for whatever reason, this old man knows about this. I don't understand how he knows about this, but this old man refers to a 16-year-old girl as the Delilah to our Samson, which is the kid.
See you later, Josh.
Every man meets his Delilah at least once in his life. And Josh Conahay met his.
Which tried to track the metaphor, it does not line up at all. Like, he might as well have just called her a hussy, because this movie's portrayal of teenage women and men and their sexuality is very disturbing. It's not portrayed, but it's heavily implied. Like, the fact that this is a story being told by an old man, but is also a movie written by two adult men, just really creeps me out.
Yeah. Well, let's actually let's talk about that theme. Let's talk about the female characters in this film because the Bechdel test was not passed. The dimensions were less than 3. I was hoping we could talk about that a little bit.
Well, most of them were NPCs, basically. Most of the women in the movie.
Yeah.
To a point where Matt, the other brother, his girlfriend, he walks outside after practice, Matt, and she's just standing there waiting for him. It's so weird.
Every female character in this movie exists to serve a man outside of the Jezebel type character, which is even worse, like portrayal of a woman. And then the aunt, who is, it's never really clear if she's a positive force or a negative force. She kind of just nags the kid, and then at the end when she drops him off somewhere, he thanks her for being there for him.
Yeah, I thought she was portrayed pretty positively with regards to her parenting. Like, you know, she had expectations that she set very rigidly, and she tried to keep him out of trouble. But at the end of the day, like, you know, he was still going to parties. He was still showing up to practice late, getting yelled at by his coach.
Mr. Conahee, nice of you to join us. This is the second time this week you have been late to practice. If you want to be part of this team, you have got to get focused or I'm going to cut you. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Good. All right, set it up. Set it up!
And in the last straw, he gets caught smoking something that I must say God actually gave to us. So I don't really see why it's that big of a deal.
He didn't even smoke it. He was just standing near it.
True.
Which, you know, that might be my biggest problem with the movie. For the 2 years I lived in Austin, Texas, almost everyone I knew there smoked weed, and they were mortified of anybody outside of their immediate circles knowing that they smoked weed. And these are like adults who work with people who are in the service industry who also don't care. So like to think that like teenagers in Dallas would be openly smoking weed at school on campus, like within 15 feet of the building, I just don't buy it.
Do you think also the in the story that him not smoke, he didn't actually smoke it? Was that purposely done because they didn't want to even encourage the idea of trying it out?
Oh, you know what? I do think that was purposely done, but I think the reason was that if they had showed him smoke it, there would be people watching the movie who are like, I'm out on this guy.
Right.
They wouldn't forgive him.
Yeah.
It'd be too
I think
far.
His lesson, because he never actually does anything that any high school kid doesn't already do. Like he goes to parties, he has like a girlfriend, and he hangs out with people who smoke weed one time. And he just, I feel like the lesson of the movie in this moment is like, just by having these people in your proximity, you're risking your well-being.
Totally. But yeah, that getting caught around what is sort of alluded to be weed smoking is the last straw. He gets expelled the next day, or that same day possibly. But what's weird is that like, I don't know if the other kids get expelled. Like, wasn't his like girlfriend there, or did I just like?
Yeah, it didn't seem like it. Yeah.
And not only that, and at the end, she's cheering against him. You know,
right? She's like still involved in school and also like extracurricular activities, even though like I think they were all smoking weed together. But yeah, only like Josh gets expelled.
Literally, he goes to her to tell her that he got expelled, and she's like, "Oh, I made the cheerleading team."
So guess what? I made cheerleader.
Great. That's great.
Now what was so important?
I got busted.
I heard, and you're off the team.
Yeah. Yeah, can we go somewhere and talk about this?
Yeah, that was a little strange. I don't know. They're like, because the coach like expels him and is like, we have a 0 tolerance policy here. And it's like, wait, like what about, I don't know, what about the other like 5 kids, including this other character who still clearly goes to school? That was very funny, I thought.
The idea that any like top tier sports program in high school or college would have a 0 tolerance policy towards any of their good players is so ridiculous.
That too, yeah.
Or that they would even like rat on their own. Like no teacher would be like, hey.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly thought he was a weak link anyway, you know? So they were like, whatever, get this kid the fuck out of here. He doesn't even go here, get this kid the fuck out of here. So this leads to the final like climax of the film, the true prodigal son moment, which I've got to say was very, like, to me, unexpected. I honestly didn't see the film going in this direction. Like, I think they had enough meat in the story to just like have him be expelled and that be it. But he actually like runs away and becomes homeless. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, living in cardboard boxes. It's crazy.
Right. Like, this is a clean cut kid we're talking here. There's like scenes where like a bleary eyed man with like stringy hair comes up to him and is like, "Yo, kid, you want some dope?"
Hey, man. Want some dope? Want to buy some dope? Hey, little man. You in pain? I got something to take all your pain away.
Which is like, pretty classic.
Yeah, he's like picking up cans outside of a diner, and then at one point he buys a sandwich from a bodega and then takes one bite of it and starts like gagging, which I thought was really strange.
Is this a common theme in these type of films, like to like scare? If you do these things, then you'll be on the streets and everything will go against you. Is that common?
I would say so. Yeah, there's definitely other films we've watched. Trying to think of another film we've watched where a character has experienced like it almost kind of reminded me of like the Jehovah's Witness films, maybe the most.
Yeah.
Because there's that one film we watched early on where like it's vaguely implied that like a kid has sex and then like the next scene is him like crying in the pouring rain on the street. Like, that was awesome. So yeah, I definitely think that's a common trope in these films for sure.
Yeah.
I also thought this is just like a little thing, but I kind of thought that like, because he's homeless and he kind of like finds this like bed that's already perfectly sort of like set design for being like a homeless person sleeping. I don't know. It just made me think that he just like stole someone's bed. I don't know. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, that's why they came back and took his bag.
Right. Yeah. He gets mugged while he's sleeping. He gets robbed while he's sleeping.
And it's interesting because this movie has no sympathy for anyone but the character that we personally know. Like, everyone else around him in these situations, which is a common theme in Christian films, I feel like. Actually, no, I don't know. Sometimes they do humanize the fellow shelterless people, but it's like the guy who comes up and offers him dope, like, what's his story? Who are we to, if we can see this teenager and we know that he had like a fall from grace, which honestly, like, a lot of it was his own doing.
Totally.
Who are we to know that like this guy didn't just like lose everything he had in the housing crisis and economic crash that happened while this movie was coming out?
Or what if that guy similarly left home to go to a better basketball program, got kicked out of the school for being in the vicinity of some hussies smoking weed, and then when he ran home the same day to get back onto the team in time for the state championship, his parents said, "No, you had your chance.
Yeah,
you're gone."
We don't even know if he smokes that dope. He could just be trying to get rid of it because he doesn't want to be near it anymore.
Yeah, maybe he's just being nice. Like, literally, I found this. Do you smoke?
Many unanswered questions here.
And that's why it's a great film. It leaves so many questions for you, the viewer.
Yeah. I guess it's nice that it didn't try to lay it all out in a way, but that did leave it to be like more confusing than one might expect for what could have been a straightforward film. I guess
a really fucking simple story.
But I guess really like the only big thing I wanted to mention before we move to our final discussions of the film, I guess the only really big thing I wanted to mention is that they really sort of vaguely tie in the prodigal son story by when the one brother comes back from his like Rumspringa. His father, the coach of their own high school team, is like, "You know what, Josh, like, I'm so happy you're home. We're going to have you play on the team tonight." And his brother, who's stayed the whole time and been loyal, and we see him like improving a lot in his brother's absence,
a lot of people attribute the team's success to him stepping up once his brother left.
Right. So he's confused and he's like, as in the Bible, in that Bible story, he's like, well, why would you be so happy with him? Like, I've been here the whole time. But basically, like 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, no, whatever. It's fine.
He came home. How can you do this? How are you going to forgive him after everything he's done to you?
Matt, he came home. What'd you want me to do?
I don't know, but he doesn't care about us, Dad. He cares about himself. That's it.
When I ran away, I was really scared. And I thought, what would you do? Because you always seem to make better decisions, and I really look up to you.
Welcome back, brother. Welcome back.
Amen, brother.
Like 5 seconds later. It's so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is an important lesson for teamwork reasons, but like this coach is like, is it really the best idea to give like good minutes to some guy who is just like sleeping on the streets the past 2 nights, hasn't had a meal and who knows how long, and like doesn't, and just on a fundamental level does not know how the offense runs or like hasn't even been a part of the team up until the championship game. So my grade is this guy gets an F as a coach. It worked out for him, but I would not hire him back the next season.
That was a funny element with it where he was definitely our Bob Revere character in this movie, where he's like the white patriarch who can't do anything wrong, basically, for the most part, means very well. We know he's good. And we're supposed to assume he's a good coach, but he really showed no sign of being a good coach.
Yeah, there was no growth for him. He just sort of, he was resistant to Tex Summers coming in, which is different. It goes back to the Phil Jackson parallel, which is off because Phil Jackson's actually a good coach, and Tex just sort of, plugged in something into his scheme that became the focal point of the offense, but it wasn't everything related to how Phil Jackson coached. But anyway, the coach never actually, there's no arc for the guy. We didn't see him learn anything new, or even for the sake of his own kids, they sort of figure things out on their own, and then he just sort of throws them in the game.
Now that you mention that, the specificity of the like oval offense and how much they're like really hammering in these like Tex Winter illusions and like the triangle offense and all like this whole thing. And the fact that this movie was written by 2 different people makes me kind of think that maybe somebody bought the rights to the script and then changed it around to make it into a Christian movie.
Maybe.
That's possible.
Because the prodigal son part is like so small. I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it felt like such a minor part to the actual like basketball stuff. But then the basketball stuff felt like somebody who kind of knew what they were talking about, but then didn't get into any details. To me, it really felt like 2 different movies, which I've said this about a couple other movies, but it really felt like 2 different movies sort of like wedged into each other.
Yeah. It was pretty disjointed. There was that part too, where right before Josh leaves for Dallas, that his much older brother, Matt, gives him a Bible, and you're like, okay, here we go. This is going to come back. No.
It's your team now. Trust yourself.
I got this for you.
Thanks, Matt.
Nah.
that was that.
Yeah, not even the coaches really say anything about it. They don't, none of their advice is sort of rooted in any theology.
Do you think there'd be some opportunity to like the stereotype is like a coach giving a speech with using verses from the Bible and bringing people together and things like that? None of that was in the film, if I can recall, right?
No,
No.
Yeah.
Every speech was literally like, try harder, work together, go out there, go get them.
Yeah, the missed opportunity there.
Yeah, totally. I feel like even in a lot of non-Christian football movies, they would like still pray at some point, I feel like.
Yeah.
There were more mentions of Woodrow Wilson in this movie than there were of Jesus Christ.
True. But still, despite not really having God's backing, they do end up winning the state championships. So good job, boys.
Yeah, they beat the
spoiler
team
alert
from Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, no one listening to this actually wants to watch the goddamn movie. God bless you.
We'll bleep this part out.
God bless you if you do. But yeah, it's enough for them.
Yeah.
They win the state championships as we were saying.
And I was kind of curious because everybody loves an underdog story, but they never really show the big city school, the Dallas team, doing anything negative.
Right.
Like anything to make us think that they're anything less than just a stellar program.
Pool parties.
It's fun to.
They go to pool parties.
Yeah, it's yeah, I guess so. Like that's it, but that's not the coaching staff's fault. And as soon as they see one of their players doing something bad, they kick him off the team.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that they. I mean, I just had no real reason. I mean, I didn't give a shit either way, but it felt like there was no reason to root against or for either team other than the fact that, like, oh, you've been following the people on this team the whole movie. But, I mean, there's something to say about sustained success and a program committed to excellency.
Sure.
Well, let's. I'd say for our purposes, that was a pretty decent summary of Breaking the Press. I hope you, our Boys Bible Study listeners, can make an informed decision about your time. But let's give this the official Boys Bible Study rating. What do you say, boys?
I'll give this a 5 out of 5 out motion offense. We got everybody is above and beyond the 3-point line on this movie.
I'll give this an uncalled bank shot recommendation, meaning like the ball went in the hoop, but it went in an interesting, different way. I think it's one of those films where it can definitely be entertaining if you're in the right mood for this kind of movie, as it was for us. And, just go in with a lot of leniency into how things play out, and you can get through it.
If you have your own podcast where you review obscure Christian movies, this is the one for you.
There you go.
I completely agree.
I'm going to give this 2 out of 2 party rap montages, one being pure, one being impure, for a perfect score. Perfect movie. Wildcats win.
I've got to say, for me, like, I thought this was the perfect blend of action, excitement, family drama, personal drama, a little TNA, a bit of sexiness that, we needed. I've got to give.
You call it Larry Clark's full court press. Yeah,
we were speculating before recording that this film would have been a lot more interesting directed by Larry Clark. I got to give this film a 2-point conversion, okay? Because it's a rare one. Like you don't often see something like this happen in the game. But when it happens,
these days, am I right? These three happy, whatever. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, I would say, once again, another fucking banger, this time out of Mustard Seed Productions. The film was Breaking the Press. But before we get out of here, Eyad, what are you working on right now or recently? Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
I'm still in the beginning stages of some new stories that I want to develop into films.
Excellent.
So nothing to plug yet. But if you want to follow me, I have an Instagram _Eyad, EYAD is my handle.
Excellent. Yeah. Follow Eyad on there. Stay in touch with what he'll be doing in the future. Definitely, if you haven't seen his first feature, The Taqwacores, we highly recommend it. And Eyad, we'll be, of course, linking to your social media and stuff. We'll tag you in the post and stuff. So anyone listening will be able to find you. On our end, on the Boys Bible Study side, I would like to once again remind that if you enjoy our free Sunday episodes, check out patreon.com/Boys Bible Study, because if you subscribe there at the $5 level or higher, you get access to the 2 or more bonus episodes that we make every month that never get posted publicly. And once a month, we do a secret live stream where we watch Christian content that we are not allowed to tell you what it is. It'll be a surprise. And we are currently planning our August live stream. We will have a date posted soon. So please join us on Patreon. On behalf of our guest, Eyad Zahra, and my co-hosts, Julian and Scott, and myself, Ash, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take me